like just a general kind of like...
Can I say a challenge that we have been discussing for quite a long time, many of us, and that is about physical education, teachers' preparation in the light of inclusion. And I'm sure many of you have read the books. I'm not going through the long list of publications, but I'm very, very curious also, of course, to learn what messages you want to share with us this afternoon. So Martin, Blok, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So a couple quick things. I'm not wearing a tie or a coat. I'm being Israeli, just nice and relaxed. So I'll try to do that. It's been a wonderful conference. Congratulations, Shecky. Congratulations. It's been absolutely wonderful. My skin is really soft. I was in the Dead Sea yesterday. So it's very, very nice. So ever since I got here, people have been asking, have you been to Israel before? My answer is yes, I have.
That's good.
I kind of look Israeli with that picture. So yeah, it's been a long time. So let me very quickly explain to you where I'm from, and then I'll go and do my presentation here. So I'm from the beautiful state of Virginia, very historic state. Just to give you kind of a reference where everything is, this is the United States. Here's the East Coast, and you can see, those of you know New York City and Washington, D.C., and I'm very close to Washington, D.C., and if we look closer at my university or my state, we're right in the middle of the state. Mountains right here, Atlantic Ocean over here. Wonderful place to live. And hopefully someday we'll have the Sapa at my home in Virginia. Woohoo! Yeah, that's nice. So I kind of say this kind of jokingly, but my university is very, very historic and very, very famous in the United States. We actually have tour buses that come and drop people off to visit our university because it was built by one of our presidents. But look at that number there, 1819. So I was in Jerusalem yesterday, and the lady's like, well, this was 2,000 years old, and this is 1,000, and these are very new, only 500 years old. You know, my country's hardly 500 years old. So it's very historic for the United States, but you know, that's where we are. But it's a beautiful university built by our third president, Thomas Jefferson. And his house is not far from our university, about 20 minutes by car. This is his beautiful house, and that's a statue of Thomas Jefferson. And it's just, it's a wonderful university. I'm very pleased to be there now for 23 years. And let me say, for those of you who were at the European Congress back in Madrid, this is very similar. I've kind of added some things, but it's a very similar presentation. I still think it's relevant. So very quickly, so we know that over the last 20 years, there's been a push worldwide to improve lives of children and adults with disabilities, with a real emphasis in including them in regular society. And I have some dates here, but we can add Eli Wolf's presentation today, 2015, a real push for inclusion in sport and physical activity, which is wonderful. And again, like I said, as a result of these changes, if you look at the world, there's been more legislation encouraging and mandating that children with disabilities be placed in regular schools. Now, if your country is like mine, it's one thing to mandate and say you should do this, another thing if they do it or not. So, you know, I understand from being here that in Israel there's been some laws recently that say you should include children. Yet I saw a presentation today that said 7% of children were in regular schools, so it's not happening very well. You know, I was talking to a colleague from Nigeria. They have legislation, yet they say they're not pushing as much as they should. So I think this is, you know, it's a great idea, and the next question is what can we do to really make this a reality here? So I think when we think of physical education, probably the most important element to make inclusion work is the physical education teacher. That person really can dictate the tone and the setting and can really tell the other children, we're going to accept this child, and he sets the tone or she sets the tone where I'm going to make sure this child with a disability is included. They're not going to be in the corner, they're going to be part of the group. I'll figure it out, I'm not sure how to do it, but I'm going to make it work. That type of attitude is unfortunately rare, but that type of attitude really makes inclusion work. But it happens, and that has to happen. The physical education teacher is the critical element. So here's an example. So this is one of our middle schools. These are for children who are 10, 11, 12, 13 years of age. And in this middle school, we have an adapted physical educator who comes and visits the school once a week. We were very fortunate to have that. But even if that adapted person didn't come to this school, the 3 physical education teachers demand that the children are included. They want those kids in the class, no matter how severe. So I was talking to Oded earlier, and he said, what type of children in America are included? I said, all types of children. Think of the child with the most severe disability. They're included. They might be in a special class, but they're probably going to be in a regular school in a special class. But these PE teachers, when my students come to pull a child out to provide them with some adapted physical education, the PE teachers, no, leave them in. We can figure it out. We can make it work. So this is a wonderful. So these are 2 young ladies you'll see here. Both of them have very severe multiple disabilities. They have very severe cerebral palsy, intellectual disabilities, seizure disorders, cortical blindness, all different types of disabilities. They could easily be in an institution or in a special school in your country and in some places in my country. But here they're in regular PE. Now again, they're not doing a whole lot independently, but they're socially part of the group, and the other children love having them there. So that you'll see all the other children are skating, and some children are helping these little girls skate as well. So to you that might not look like a big deal. To me that's a pretty big deal that they're being included that much. So even though in the United States we've been including children for 30 years, we don't see that much. I mean, those children who are that severe being included, and the PE teachers really want them to be successful in the class. This is that same little girl we just saw. This is when she was in elementary school. And I don't have a video of this, but I really like this because it happened to be her birthday. So they usually have a crown for the children or birthday balloons. If she was in a special class and all the children were like her, who would sing happy birthday to her? It would be the teachers. She's in a class here. Who sings happy birthday to her? 20 of her friends. So again, inclusion is a good thing. It's really a good thing if we can make it work. Okay? So some of the research out there, we know that if you do a good job of preparing physical education teachers and other teachers, then they'll have a better chance of having these types of attitudes. And you'll have a much better chance of having these children safely, successfully, and meaningfully involved in general physical education. So there's some good research out there that says that we can improve competence and feelings of competence if we provide good training. However, there are other studies, and again, Oded study today from Israel, said that just having in a physical education class, an adapted physical education class might not be enough. Okay, so one class in adapted physical education, do we really prepare people for how to deal with 2 girls like that in a class of 30 or 40 children? I don't think we're doing that. So that's an issue here. And when we don't prepare teachers, we get attitudes like this. So I'm going to show you another quick video.
I think they could always come up with a way for them to interact if they really wanted to.
So this is an older movie filmed in Syracuse, New York back in 1988. They were one of the first schools that really opened themselves up to including children. And they were interviewing parents, and they were interviewing teachers, and they were interviewing children, and everybody said, inclusion is the best thing. This is working so well. We love having these children here. This is great. Everybody said it was great except one person. The PE teacher. Yeah. Now, think about her now. Think about what she's saying here. She's going to tell you, and it's a little bit hard to hear, she's going to say, I'm teaching swimming, and every one of my high school students has to dive off the edge of the pool and swim the length of the pool. And this boy who has cerebral palsy is never going to be able to do that. So why is he in my class? Okay, now you can disagree with her attitude, but that's what she's thinking. Why is he in my class if he can't do the skills I'm presenting to him?
But not everyone agrees. Adding a new responsibility to a teacher's already crowded schedule isn't easy.
This is not integrating as far as I'm concerned. It's parallel. They should have physical therapy, not physical education. Physical education means nothing to them. They're going nowhere with it. It doesn't lead to anything. Dream on.
Often, the teachers are caught in a system of goals and tests for their typical students that make it seem impossible to include everyone.
We just can't pick and choose what we want to do. And these kids have to pass, or they fail their physical education. They have to have physical education to graduate. And it starts at this level.
So, and I'll show you a little bit more of this tape. One thing I look for is if a child is successfully included is A, is the child able to work at his or her level? Okay, so he's not going to dive off the diving board, okay? What can he do? And can he do those things successfully in that setting? That's one thing I look at. Another thing I look at is having this child in that class having a negative effect on all the other children. In other words, because this child's in this class, all the other children can't practice swimming and diving. I don't think that's happening, okay? Does the child have opportunities to be socially included, talk to other peers, interact with peers, all right? So I'd like you to watch here and then say to yourself, geez, even though this lady's complaining, the kid seems to be doing pretty well.
Okay, you ready to swim back to the other end? Ready to go? Yeah. Good.
Tony doesn't necessarily have to be judged by the same arbitrary standards that other kids are judged by in terms of his skill acquisition. We already know that Tony is not going to be able to dive off the diving board. So why can't we go get on past that? Why do we have to keep, saying, well, just because he can't jump off the diving board, he can't benefit from being in this class? It's all a matter of deciding what are appropriate goals for Tony and then pushing him until he reaches those goals.
It's all about finding appropriate goals for Tony and making sure he reaches those goals. To me, that's inclusion. We can include the child if we identify those appropriate goals. So I think that's an important thing that was said there. So, how do we change this woman's attitude? How do we get new teachers to the field to say, yeah, I'm going to embrace and include everybody? What can we do here? Well, we know that preparation seems to be an issue here, so let's look at what's happening with preparation. Like I said, in the States, we tend to have one adapted physical education course that's required for our physical education teacher ed majors. What does that course look like? Well, my colleagues Ron Davis and Cindy Poletic did a survey of about 150 adapted PE teachers who were teaching these courses and asked them what they taught. So, number one thing was information about disabilities, what's autism, what's a spinal cord injury, things like that. Some instruction and motivational strategies, fitness, motor skills, but they don't get down to modifications here until point number 4. Okay, to me, I think that should be something that should be elevated as really important for phys ed teacher trainers. If you look at the content that received the least amount of training, things that again I think would be important is how do I make the environment work for children who have social challenges and behavior challenges, children with autism in particular come to my mind, and same thing with behavior management. And when you talk to physical education teachers, why aren't you including this child? Oh, he's a behavior problem. He has attention problems. He's running around and not following directions. That's their biggest concern. Okay, so we need to change what we're doing here in our teacher program, I think. Right, so again, the question is, are we really preparing teachers for inclusion? So these are the questions I would like to see in a final examination from teacher preparation programs. Okay, how can you do this? Let's look at number 1 here. You're a primary school physical education teacher teaching boys and girls to throw and catch. Right? You have a child with autism in your class. The child doesn't talk, he tends to run away. When you engage him and touch him, he gets very defensive. He's in your class of 25 children without disabilities. Okay? Can you modify that activity to include that child? A lot of you are nodding your head saying, yeah, I can do that. Good. But can 90%, 100% of our graduates nod their head and say, yeah, I can do that? Hopefully they can. And hopefully at least they have the mindset thinking, I'm not sure how to do it, but I think maybe I can make this work. Let's look at the second scenario here. So you're teaching secondary physical education, and a boy walks in who says, I'm visually impaired, I'm blind. And you're playing basketball. Great, I love basketball, let's play. What do you think you do as a PE teacher? You have 30 kids playing basketball, child who's blind. All right? So let me show you what might happen here.
violence the blind guy.
So this is a Disney movie. Disney's very big in the States, and this was a kind of a dramatization of a real young man who became a famous TV star and an athlete who had a visual impairment. This is his first experience going to a new high school. And this is the reaction of the physical education teacher. And I'm not saying the physical education teacher's reaction is necessarily wrong. If I'm in that situation and someone just shows up, I might have the same concerns.
Very fun. Chuckles. Go on. All right, gentlemen, we're going to work on the weave. We'll need 3 groups at half court. Whose birthday is January to April? Mine. Left side. May to August. Over here. You're in the middle. Everybody else on the right. Chase. Phil Rice. Welcome to Homestead. Thank you. I'm going to use this time to go do some homework or something. No, I can do this. I used to play basketball all the time at home. Not to be rude, but how? With the bounce pass only rule. I'm going to beat backwards like I tell the hoopies. Well, I'm certainly going to look into getting one of those, but for today you'll have to sit out. The bleachers are over here. Beep, beep. Thank you. Here we go, fellas. Good, crisp passes. That's it.
Now, only the way Disney could do this. He later, that's the wrestling coach, and he becomes a star in the wrestling team, and the PE teacher really accepts him. But again, you're a PE teacher, you have 30 children who are normally sighted, you want to teach them how to play basketball, you have a child with a visual impairment. Okay, now again, if we sat down and thought about it, we could figure out some ways to modify things, have peers come off to the side and practice passing, have someone tapping the stick on the back, where there's lots of ways to get them involved, but do we train PE teachers to do that? I'm not sure if we do. You know, I can tell you, this is what the eye looks like, this is what's wrong with the eye, here are all the causes of visual impairment. That's what they need to know. You have 30 children and 1 child who's blind. What do you do? And that's not what we're giving the students here. And here's the last scenario. Think about this one, and I'll give you a highlight of this later. You're doing a secondary unit, you're playing soccer, football here in Europe, and you have a child with 1 leg. He uses crutches. Okay? So what do? Can you include that child? Again, in America, they're thinking right away, safety and liability. Someone's going to get hurt, I'm going to get sued, I'm going to be poor. So that's the mindset of the U.S. So, all right. So because of this lack of preparation, what do physical educators say to themselves? What's that little voice going on in their head? What do I do? Okay? What do I do? I don't want to do anything wrong. I'm not sure what to do, but I'm scared I'm going to do the wrong thing. Even if I kind of know what to do, I know I should include this child who's blind. That's the right thing to do. That's why I have some concerns with attitude surveys, because when you ask someone, do you think children should be included? Heck yeah. Do you know how to do it? No. But yeah, they should be included. I don't know how to do it, but they should be included. So that's what they're saying is, yeah, I think he should be there, but I don't know how to make modifications. And then, is this going to have a negative effect on the children without disabilities? Okay, so those are some things to think about here. So what's the solution to this problem? Well, back in the early 90s, Karen DePaul, another former president of IFAPA, and some other colleagues, Terry Rizzo and April Tripp and Ellen Kowalski, they came up with this idea of infusing concepts of disability throughout the curriculum. So instead of, or as a supplement to that one adaptive PE course, every time you take a course, people are going to talk about disabilities. So when you take your exercise physiology class, people are going to talk about disabilities. What if you have someone with a spinal cord injury? What are some of the issues with that? What if you have someone with diabetes? When you take your biomechanics class, what's the biomechanics of wheelchair pushing? And when you take your team sports class, or basketball, and tennis, and golf, and football, and handball classes, someone's going to say, okay, so now we're playing football. You have a child who has a visual impairment. What are we going to do? What are some good ways to make modifications? It's a great idea. It's a great idea. I love this idea. Okay? And right now, I know of one person in the United States who's doing it. There might be more, but right now I know one person. And she really wanted to come to this convention at this symposium and present on this, but unfortunately she couldn't come. She said, make sure you mention me that she wanted to come. So I'm from Maria. But Maria Brigham Young goes into the classes. As the adapted person at her university, she will go into the class of the biomechanist, of the exercise physiologist, of the elementary methods class, of all these classes, and she'll talk about disability. Okay? So she's doing it, and it's working really well at her university. She really is pleased with how it's going here. Yeah, but it's one university. And I'm not Maria. I can't go into an exercise physiology class and tell them what, I don't know what they're talking about, let alone how to, so I can't do that. So professors in exercise physiology would argue, I don't know enough about disabilities to present this well in my class. I don't know enough about disabilities to present this in my biomechanics class. Even the elementary and the secondary teachers will say the same thing. The person teaching soccer, the person teaching tennis, I don't know enough about disabilities to make this work. Okay? They also might say, you know, I have so much material to cover right now, to add more material, I can't do it. I can't do it. It's filled right now. I barely get everything I want in there. So that's an issue. And, you know, even if there is an adapted person at your university, they don't have the time to go in there, and they don't have the knowledge. I don't know about all these other classes that go in there. So this is an issue. So again, the infusion approach is a great idea. It's not being done because I think of these problems here. So what's another solution here? And I presented this earlier, some research, but what we think might work is an online supplement. Today's students who are 18, 19, 20, I know my daughters, they're online all the time. They can't live without their little cell phone. And so they know how to do all these things. They look for videos, things like that. You know, they're good at that stuff. So why don't we create an online supplement, show some of the videos that I've been showing, present information in a nice, interesting way. I think that's going to be really good for them. I think they would really be receptive to that. You can also build in online discussions so you can have a little community. So someone can say, yeah, I just did a practicum, or I just saw a student, or I just watched this video of a child with a visual impairment going into PE class, and I don't understand how to include them. And another peer says, well, this might work. I was thinking about this. And another peer says, yeah, that's a good idea. And another peer says, no, that's not a good idea. That could be dangerous. But you have this interactions, and everybody as a community works together. So this is, I think, a really nice model that has a lot of potential here. So one of my doctoral students, Eunhae Kwan, took this upon herself to do this for her dissertation. Okay? So what she did was she created a module, and it was actually kind of a rough module. It wasn't the strongest online thing, but it still had some nice features. It had some nice videos, it had some nice pictures, had PowerPoint information, it had some really nice things here. And we used, or she used, from Ken Black and Peter Downs in the Inclusion Club, one of their videos, and basically followed this tree model. So teaching style, rules, environment, equipment, and that was kind of the hallmark of how you can make modifications. Her target audience were physical education, teacher education students in Korea who were in a team handball class, how to play team handball. They were first-year students. They had never had an adaptive course, very little exposure to people with disabilities. And so she said, okay, let's focus on intellectual disabilities, how to make modifications to include them. And she found it to be really effective. And here's one of the videos that she used. Is Ken still here?
No, Ken.
Okay, well, good. Tell him I'm showing his video if you see him.
Okay, it's Peter Downs here with video 3. In this scene, you'll see yet again a softball scene with the same group. Again, use your worksheet here to have a look at how you would adapt and modify this particular activity, and note some of the changes from the previous video here.
So what Peter's talking about here is that this was a video that's part 2. So part 1 showed the teacher kind of not accommodating children with disabilities. This is part 2, and then you're supposed to watch this and have little notes and take notes. What are some things you see? So you'll see there's a child with a wheelchair, there's a child with a visual impairment, there's a child with a tension problem. So she does things like moving kids closer when she's talking. You see all the different adaptive equipment, so that's the types of things you'll see her doing.
In terms of teaching style, rules and regulations, the equipment and environment here. So take a look very closely at those 4 aspects of this particular activity and look how that's far more inclusive of people with disabilities.
Good morning, everyone. Mark and Richard, would you come down the front so you can see what I'm doing, please? Okay. We're going to practice our softball skills again today, only this time we're going to add a couple of new rules, all right? As you can see out there, there are some alternative bases and this is course 2. Some of you will run to course 1 and some to course 2, but I'll call the play as we go, okay? Now for the hitters, we can hit a pitched ball, we can hit the ball off the tee, or we can hit a rolled ball. Here are our alternative balls for pitching. I'll call the play when we get out there, so let's go and play, okay? Mark, I'll get you the right bat. There we go. You can take the big blue. Good. Look at this ball and that ball. That's good. Grab another. Excellent. Good, 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 good. Yeah, just pop them down. That's good. Oh. Awesome. Oi, no. Go, go, go.
So what you saw there, you can use the term universal design. I know Lauren Lieberman has used that term in physical education, differentiated instruction, but you know, you're differentiating for different abilities, making sure everybody has a chance to be successful. I think in that little short clip there, you're going to get the minds of physical education teachers thinking, yeah, okay, having different sized balls, I can do that. So how can I translate that? Okay, we're playing volleyball, and whenever it's your turn to serve, you can choose what size ball to choose to serve from, and maybe you can move closer or farther away from the net, depending on your skill level. Okay, that might be a good modification. So again, you get the PE teachers to think, okay, I can do this, I can make this work. Okay? Now, I keep on saying that in the States, like this wonderful thing, and we do this all the time. It wasn't that long ago I went to a class where they were playing softball like that, like this young man is trying to hit a ball. And the PE teacher was the permanent pitcher, so she would toss the ball to the kids. Everybody had to hit a ball that was pitched. Even if you couldn't hit it, you had to hit a ball that was pitched. And then, I swear she took a bat that she used when she played in college. So she had this heavy wooden bat. And there was one kid who had a kind of a mild disability, but he was very weak. So it was his turn to bat, and he took the bat in his hand, and he dragged the bat to home base. And then he did, with all the strength he could muster, threw the bat over his shoulder, and it was on his shoulder here. And when the ball came pitching, he couldn't get the bat off his shoulder. Strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, nice playing, son, move out, and he was done. So we talked to the teacher and said, you know, what do you think about letting him use a lighter bat? You know, I'll go to Toys R Us and buy him a little wiffle ball bat. Now this is one of those teachers who had the rule book in her back pocket and saying, you know, the rule book says that you have to use a wooden bat. I know, but this is physical education. What do you think if we let him use a bat? Okay, fine. And I said, you know what? I don't think he's going to even hit a ball with one of these lightweight bats. What if we get a tee? I'll go out and buy you a tee. What if we put a tee down, let him hit a ball off a tee? But the rule book says, I know. It's okay, don't worry about it. Right? So she said, okay, fine, we'll let him hit it. So then we finally said, you know what? This is going to make him look really special and different. What if we made a rule that everybody gets 2 pitches, all right? And if you miss after 2 pitches, then you get to hit a ball on the tee. Oh, her head almost exploded when I said that. She said, okay, fine, we'll do that. So she explained this to the class, all right? About 1/3 to 1/2 of the class, when she said, you can hit a ball off a tee and you can use a lighter bat, you can see them going, oh, good, I might hit the ball too. You know, so again, she wasn't thinking, it's one of those teachers who taught everybody at the same narrow level. If you didn't make it that level, you weren't going to be successful. All right, so teaching children to make these modifications helps not just the children with disabilities, but everybody in the class, because there's such diversity there. So I think this is a good idea. I think this is a good model here. One of my doctoral students, Sean Healy, former EFAPA student rep, who's now going to beautiful California for his first job, he did one just recently on peer tutoring and found it to be extremely effective on improving knowledge and your kind of perceived competence, that self-efficacy. And we're working on one now with children with autism to teach them how to use visual supports for children. So again, I think this has a lot of possibility here and really is something that we should consider in the future. Lots more studies need to be done. Shecky and Aya, we created a nice self-efficacy survey. It's easy to use. So this is a good tool. Let's do a pre-test. Let's have them take this supplement, do a post-test, see if it makes a difference. I think it can. And we talked about doing this in Greece with your program. Okay. So how about this model? Does this apply to youth sports coaches? And I think we can. All right. And we did a little survey just to kind of get an idea what was going on in the States. And again, this is a good test or showing you the differences. So in the U.S., we sent out 300 surveys in Virginia and Georgia to directors of clubs that had soccer programs. And we got 25 responses back. 300, we got 25 responses back. Luka Jovanovic from Serbia was one of our master's students in the European Master's Program. He went and knocked on every door of the directors in Serbia. He got 40 responses back. I mean, that's what you have to do. So he was a good guy. So we collected the data, and surprisingly to me, it was very similar. Okay? Not this first part, there were no training manuals. So the questions were, do you have a training manual for your coaches that has a little chapter, a sentence, anything about disabilities? No, we don't have anything like that. Have you offered training to your coaches? No, we've never offered any training to coaches. Would you want to do that? Well, yeah, I guess so. But we haven't done any of that yet. All right? Then we asked them some questions, and I was a little bit surprised at these positive answers. Would you be allowing modifications that would only affect a child with a disability? For example, would you allow a child who you know would never hit a ball in baseball hit a ball off the tee? Like, yeah, that's okay. That's not going to affect anything. Would you allow a child with a disability to have a peer tutor or his parent help him on the soccer field? So I said, yeah, that's okay. That's not. And we're at the recreation level, not at the competitive, but recreation, learning how to play soccer. And this is something that happened to me. I coached 10-year-old girls with one of my daughters, and there was a girl who was 12 who was allowed to play down with 10-year-olds. Normally they wouldn't let that happen, but this girl had a mild intellectual disability and behavior problem, so they said, sure, let's let her play down. Now, they weren't willing to, this is in the US and in Serbia, to do things that would change the game for everybody. So if we said, okay, the child can't play volleyball using the regulation volleyball, let's go to those big beach balls. That'd be fun. No, not going to do that. That changes the game too much. Okay? So we have to be, or we're shortening the field. So this is some interesting stuff here. So let me show you real quick. How am I doing? Oh, good. Okay. So this is the type of video. This is from Australia. This is the type of video I would like to show coaches when they say, no, I don't want to let a child play. And this is a child with a pretty severe disability with some kind of mechanical assistance and his dad helping him out, who's being really successfully included in the regular game here.
Well, it's Cerebral Palsy Awareness Week this week, and there are so many people who are working hard to overcome the condition. One of them is a boy with a very big heart who loves soccer. And when he bends it like Beckham, he makes everyone around him light up with joy. And with our good news story this morning, here is Today Show reporter Mike Dalton.
It's game day at Friars Field in Sydney's north. It's the sort of soccer ground where the goalie can practice his dance moves when the play is at the other end of the field. And it's the venue for the next game of the Hornsby RSL Youth Soccer Club's under-9As. And the next game for Alex Graham.
Well, we're playing a new team this week. We haven't played them before. Corpus Christi, they're from St Ives.
Alex has lived his 8 years with rheumatoid cerebral palsy. He can't walk, stand or sit. His limbs refuse to answer his mind's call. But with the aid of a special brace and walker, Alex is ready to represent the blue and gold of Hornsby. Penny Graham is Alex's mum. When you see him out on the field, did you ever envisage, say, 5 years ago, that he would be on the field?
Never had that idea at all. And when he got his first wheelchair, you almost feel you're locked into that. And that's where the walker has opened up a life for him. But I think as a mother, that's what you're trying to do all the time. See, is there a way, and be creative about it.
Team manager Lynn Slevin.
We've had teams, make concessions, allowing him to be on the field as an extra player, which we don't really like because we want it to be as normal as possible. He's just part of our normal team, but they've been fabulous.
Alex has been in the squad for the last 3 years, and it's no drama for his teammates. But as mates do, they occasionally give him a hard time, and he gives it back. During warm-up, there's a tangible feeling of all for one. Just before kick-off, Lynn has a gentle chat with the opposition.
Don't be worried about this, okay? If the ball goes near him, you can kick him. Can we kick you? And you can kick the walker. It doesn't matter. Okay, so
The sport has helped his progress substantially.
He's got a strong constitution, he rarely gets sick, and this has probably been a lot of the reason for that.
And it's full time at Friars Field. Let's go down to Saturday night.
All right, so that was, I think, a really good example of a child being successfully included in a sports setting. So again, I keep on going back to what a wonderful coach being open to the idea, and whoever the commissioner of that league was being open to the idea of having a child like Alex participate. But these things can be done, and in terms of training coaches, you know, you show videos like that, you talk about that tree model, you say, here's how we can make some modifications to make this all work. So I think this is a good thing. Here's something else that we've done before with coaches and teachers, and I've done this with children as well to try to get them to kind of change their attitude a little bit. So I show them two pictures. Here's a young man all dressed ready to play football, and here's a young man in crutches. And I asked them to look at these questions. This is a adjective checklist scale by a guy named Gary Sipperstein out of Boston. He's been using this scale for many, many years. What he does is he asks people to look at a picture or read a statement and then answer these questions. So if we go back to these pictures here, let's look at the young man who has the soccer ball. How might we describe him? Right? I look at some of the blue pictures, like or the words athletic and fast, coordinated, strong. Those are some words that kind of come to my mind. Now let's look at the child in crutches here. Okay? Now you might say, well, he looks happy, he looks bright, he might be smart, but I don't think you're going to use words like athletic or fast or coordinated or strong. You might actually use a word like weak or slow. That might make sense. All right? So how can I change someone's attitude about that? Well, again, obviously I love using videos. I found this really great video from the recent World Cup in Rio. It was you'll see it's a commercial, but it's an absolutely wonderful video of a young man from the U.S. who plays soccer.
Can you stand up on one leg, Nicolette?
Oops, bumped your head. Hop, hop, hop.
Nicolette.
Hop, hop off your foot.
What do you think you're going to do today?
So would you pick different words? Yeah, what a great story here. So again, I think if we show videos like this to coaches, to teammates, and say, yeah, I think this guy can really play, and open up some of the doors, then I think people are more likely to do some of these inclusive programs here. So in summary here, I think that we, and I'm going to be the we, is we in higher education are not doing a good job of preparing future physical educators and future coaches. We need to do something different. We've been doing the same stuff for many, many years, and it's just not working. Right? So one of the things I think we might be able to do is create these little online supplements. And I'm not very technical, but I can go on YouTube like anybody and pull out videos and say, look, here's a good idea. Here's a good idea. Let's take that tree model. Let's think about the environment. Let's think about the equipment. Let's think about all these other things, the rules of the game that we can change. And you guys can do it. And once they do it once and they're successful, once a PE teacher does it once, then the next time it's easier, and the next time it's easier. And all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I can make this work. I can make this work. And that's the goal, is to get this stuff to work. So I really think this online piece is the answer here. So one more thing before I leave, I just want to put on my other hat. I'm the editor of the journal Palestra, and there have been absolutely wonderful presentations here. Shecky and I in the scientific committee are going to publish several abstracts in Palestra, but I really encourage you to submit your stuff just by emailing me some of your papers that you've done here at the conference. Very, very impressive, great stuff, and we'd love to have some of your work there. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Dankeschön. Very informative, very inspiring. So, the floor is open to comments and questions. Yes, please.
Hi. Thank you very much for this great presentation. So, my interest is in teaching expertise, and especially when it comes to working with children who have special needs and need accommodation. We do research on ability of teachers to modify instruction, and that's probably one of the biggest challenges that they face. And it seems that there is this notion of attitudes of teachers, and I've heard it here in several different presentations, what teachers perceive, what's their attitude towards inclusion. And there's the question of competency. Are they able to do that? With peak programs challenged over room in the curriculum, what do you think is one prerequisite to the other? Are these two things need to be addressed at the same time? How do you just that?
Well, let me begin by saying what my daughter tells me every time I see her. Say, "Okay, Jesse, I'm going to Israel to do a presentation at this international conference." Isn't that great? She goes, "Dad, you're a PE teacher." Nobody cares. That's what she says. That's my wonderful daughter. Thanks for the pat on the back. It's one of my daughters. Yeah, that's right. Yes, so that's what she tells me. But my answer to you, and I don't want to be critical of our programs, but it's just not that difficult. And I'm going to share, I'm going to turn to Aya, who's taken second graders, and within a couple of weeks, half hour, 2 times a week for about 2 weeks, she's trained them to be peer tutors with children just like the ones we saw with severe disabilities. And not just train them to be peer tutors, but to modify instruction and give them good feedback. So, again, it is a little bit difficult, but what I rely on, I think one of the best methods for when we're in Israel here and you have 40 children and 1 child with autism, I say, would you mind helping her? I don't think she understood my instructions. That's the simplest thing to do, all right? This little girl is deaf. Who knows sign language? Well, I learned a little bit of sign language. Would you work with her a little bit? Because I haven't learned sign language yet. Okay, this little girl, she doesn't know, she needs pictures. This teacher gave me this picture schedule. I don't know if to do it. Can you get, so teachers can, it's just say, I'm not sure what to do, but can you help me with that? Teacher assistant, peer tutors. So I understand what you're saying. Instruction is very challenging to do, and there are lots of ways to make modifications, and we need to present that information. But I think teaching about peer tutoring using peers who are more patient sometimes and really want to make it work, that'd be a good solution. It's a great question.
Okay.
Just wanted to add.
Professor Lieberman, you have a question.
No, actually, I just wanted to add what Marty was saying too, and we're a little bit different. We have a lot of adapted PE higher ed professors in our department, but in the methods classes in my university, all the methods professors infuse universal design into their classes. So if they're teaching elementary methods, they teach universal design. So it's not just in the APE class or secondary methods, they teach universal design. Our assessment classes, all assessments, and how do we include everyone in those assessments. And so I agree, a lot of times it's really hard to knock it into some people's heads. And there's still some people who really don't get it and they can't open their mind up. But we've been so successful that in the U.S., and I wish this was more universal, but we're having a big higher ed physical education, teacher education conference, and the theme is universal design now. And this isn't adaptive PE people, this is general PE people, and it's going to be, and I'm sure not everybody's going to embrace it, but at least people are putting that on the bill for the conference, universal design for learning. We're having general sessions on that. And so I think, and it took us a long time to get there, though, to have the methods professors use universal design as the theme for their classes, but I think that that's something that we can push and encourage people to do if they're not already doing it. And actually some of them were already doing it and they didn't even know they were doing it. And I think that's a good thing, a lot of teachers, the aha moment where, oh yeah, you don't have to change much, really, you're doing great. They're like, oh, I didn't even know I was doing it. So that sometimes, just that you're already doing a good job sometimes is already helpful too.
I'll take it. I use the term differentiated instruction, which is similar, but I remember when I was in elementary school back in the early 60s, and I wasn't a very good reader, they had different colored books. You know, and if you read the brown book cover to cover, then you moved to the green book. So there were people in blue and yellow, and I was sitting back there with a stupid brown book. But the idea was that everybody had a book at their level. So why can't we say, okay, I have this height basketball, I have this height basketball, I have this height basketball, I have different lines on the floor where you can shoot from, I have different size basketballs. Find a ball, find a line, find a target that matches your skill level. I don't think it's that hard. But, you know,
okay, one more question from here, then I come over there.
I just have a comment. I believe that if we modify the activity so that everybody is moving more, rather than focusing on learning all the specific skills, it will be more inclusive for everybody. So if we stay away from teaching all the nitty-gritty details of every rule of every game, but we create games that are more inclusive, they will automatically, by default, include everybody. And everybody will be moving much more than standing around learning the rules and the little nitty-gritty parts.
I won't disagree. I think fitness activities are easier to modify and include, although I still like the idea of teaching skills. But, you know, making that differentiation, but you make a good point. It is a challenge, especially when you get into the rules and things like that. That might not be for everybody, but for some people, yeah.
Yes, my comment is that I just miss one word, which is creativity. If the teachers are creative, I think they can invent what they need, and it's very individual. I always teach to my students that there's no rule how to adapt and how to modify, but to be creative and adapt to the needs, the special needs, and the individual needs.
That's a great point. And I similarly think that teaching is as much an art as it is a science. You know, so we can teach you all the theory, but I've had students come to my program who had all this theory and background, and I've had students who just never had a classes, and I think this would be fun to do, and they do a great job. So yeah, it's an art. Good point.
Any further comments, questions? Yes, please.
With the modules that you're talking about, is that meant to be like your PE majors complete so many and they get a credit hour, or is it just a support to help them learn? I mean, where are you headed with that?
I don't know, that's a good question. I didn't see it as any type of a graded type of assignment. It may have to be, knowing students, they might not do it if it's not built into the class. But yeah, I see it right now as kind of a supplement, but we haven't thought about, right now it's been used experimentally, but I could see it being part of the class when you should do that. And once you create kind of the generic model of making modifications for team handball, and then we go to volleyball, it's like, okay, I remember this stuff, and then football, oh yeah, so it becomes easier. But yeah, we haven't talked about that. That's a great question.
Any further comment, question? If this is not the case, I have a question to you. What medal is this?
Oh, my daughter graduated from physical therapy school a year ago, so very proud of her.